What up, what up? So today we're gonna be talking about Supreme Kai of Time with the new Zenkai 3 support. So I love this deck. I love this leader. I played this leader since set 13. I've been taking it apart, building it again on and off since then. What I've always found is the way the deck is designed is counterintuitive. You have a leader that wants to keep big overwhelm bodies on board, and obviously the more you keep big bodies on board, the longer the game goes, the more those big bodies get to threaten damage. But at the same time, the leader was critting a life every turn, and you were kind of accelerating your demise and thus getting less value out of playing those big overwhelm bodies and keeping them on the board. So, thanks to the new Zenkai support, that has been fixed. So, the first card I want to talk about is Pan, Search for Another World. I should be playing 3 of these. I only pulled 2. On the lookout for a third one. I don't think you need 4, because realistically, the first time you crit yourself, you might not even use this. But let me talk about what it does first. Auto. Limit 1. If your leader's a black Supreme Kai at time, when a card's placed from your life in your drop by one of your leader skills, add the top card of your deck to your life. So right there is already a huge buff to the deck. Immense buff to the deck. So that alone is addressing one of the leader's most glaring weaknesses, which was hurting itself, which was dealing damage to itself, and not only that, critting yourself, which feels terrible, but now actually feels good because it helps you fix your overwhelm numbers at will. So this pan was already pretty good. It's one black specified, 2 Z energy. But then they gave it an activate main that actually makes it even more snapped. This card says activate main, limit 1 bond 3 character cards with Xeno in its character name. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to its owner's warp. So not only are you using this to help you not lose your life, you're also using this to help you go aggressive. The amount of times you can just like hit a blocker with this, like, oh, you want a token negate? Cool, activate main on pan. There goes your token. You just ripped a life thinking you would stop 2 attacks, and really you only stop 1. So pan is great. I can't say enough about pan. And I'm just now realizing that she's a 15k, which I've never swung with her, but you could very well swing with her. She's a 1-2 15k. Insane. I thought she was a 5k. I just assumed. I never looked down and read the card, so my apologies on that one. Let's talk about Boo real quick. Boo's a blocker. He's a 1-1. The first activate main is only for the Agents of Destruction deck. We're not going to talk about that one. The second one says limit 1. If your leader is black, you have 3 or more energy, and you place one of your Z energy in your drop. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, place it under this card, and this card gains 20k power until the end of your opponent's turn. So right here, for 1 energy and 2 Z energy, they both essentially cost 2 Z energy for the effect. We have 1 cost answers to boss monsters and secret rares. So I can't say enough about that. Answering a boss monster or a secret rare for 1 energy, incredible. So let's talk about Demigra. Demigra catches a lot of flack because he's very expensive to play in black decks. This deck is actually designed to where you don't really need to spend energy on a lot of your plays. Because of that, paying the 2 energy and the 3 Z energy, if you've already built a board, this is definitely a win more card, but it's not like a you don't need it win more card. It's a I'm in an advantageous state. I'm going to play this and go even harder with it. So basically, Demigra says unique. It says it gains 2k for each card in your Z energy. So 5 cards, you got a 25k attacker here. Auto, once per turn, if it's your turn, when you activate Overwhelm or Dark Overwhelm, or play a black battle card from your warp, draw a card and choose one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 6 or less and send it to its owner's warp. So you get hand refill, you get a big attacker, and that's a permanent. So like if you have, let's say you have 10 cards in your oh, it's for your Z energy, not your warp. I lied. But yeah, you get 5 cards in your Z energy, you get a 25k attacker. Nah, it's not that great. I'm not gonna lie. Like, these two are the Z cards you want to play, and then obviously we have a Surmounting the Impossible, just because it's there for when we need to fix our hand when we don't see what we need. So yeah, that's our Z deck. Let's talk about the leader real quick. The leader hasn't changed. There's no Z leader or anything, but some of y'all might not know the leader because it has been a while since this leader came out. We have Auto Burst 3. When this card attacks, draw a card. Awaken when your life's at 4 or less, or you have 8 or more cards in your warp. You can draw 2 and go down to 6. So this side, we got a whole wall of text right here. First of all, when you play a battle card using Overwhelm once per turn, draw a card, and then put 3 black battle cards from your warp into your drop. Activate main once per turn. Pay a black energy. Choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. If you don't have a Unison in play, play a black Unison with no specified cost and 9k power from your drop or warp with a marker on it. So this, I'll show you the Unison first when we go into the main deck. The Unison is the backbone of the deck. If you don't have the Unison in play, this deck feels significantly weaker. If you're planning on building this deck without the Demigra Unison, because I know it has jumped in price quite a little bit recently, don't do it. You need the Demigra Unison. You need Reflexive Strike for this deck. I'm sorry, it's just the rules. So yeah, you can play a Unison if they got rid of it. And then activate main once per turn, crit yourself, place 1 life in your drop area, place up to 2 black battle cards from your warp into your drop, and then your overwhelms do not leave at the end of turn. So that's cool and all, but like, you're probably thinking, Nassif, you could only overwhelm once per turn, right? So our Unison actually fixes that for us. And with that brilliantly crafted segue, let's get into the main deck. Starting off, we're going to talk about Demigra, Momentary Ally. So Demigra is a 9k, no specified cost. His activate main +1, put 2 black battle cards from warp to drop, and -3, you can add 2 black battle cards, energy cost 7 or less, and the overwhelm skill from warp to hand. So those are really good, but the reason we run him most of all is auto, once per turn, burst 1 if your leader is a black Saiyan only or God only card. When you play a battle card using Overwhelm, this card gains Wormhole for the turn. So Wormhole is a keyword that allows you to Overwhelm an additional time that turn. Overwhelm or Dark Overwhelm. We don't play any Dark Overwhelms, but it should be noted. So because this Unison is so integral to the deck, we are playing a few ways to get to it. Or one way to get to it, really. But I've played this deck a lot. If you see people building this deck without this little package I'm about to show you, advise them. Because Fusion Renewed, being able to search your Unison, you're effectively running 8 copies of your Unison, not to mention being able to dig into the top 7 to find it with it. Like, I can't say enough about how good Fusion Renewed is for the deck. It's an Overwhelm 2 10k that doesn't really come up. The only reason they gave it Overwhelm, I think, is so it could search itself, because it searches a battle card 2 or less with Overwhelm or your Unison when you discard it, and then that's limit 1. The other target we have for him is Sun Goten, thwarting the Dark Empire. There is a Trunks. There's this Trunks, which I was running. And I was running a split of Goten and Trunks, but I think the crit is just... I know the crit is just better than the double strike early. So, plus we do play a Champa, so like landing that Champa early could be detrimental to their success. Overwhelm 2 critical. If your leader card is a black Supreme Kai time card, when this card's played using Overwhelm, send up to 2 cards from the top of your deck to your warp, then draw a card. So he replaces himself in your hand. He accelerates your awaken because we do awaken with 8 cards in our warp. And he's just a crit attacker, so he's like a guaranteed card out of your opponent's hand at worst. Alright. Up next, our first or not really our first overwhelm option, but we do have to run some low to the ground overwhelms to start to get the juices flowing, as it were. So Trunks Time Regulator is really good, not only for being a hand fixer, not only for being a 15k swing that's a cheap overwhelm, but because he is a Trunks Xeno, which is relevant later. I'll tell you why when we get to it. But yeah, Trunks Time Regulator deserves a spot at least at 3 or 4 in the deck. Next up, this card is technically an overwhelm. We have Reflexive Strike. So Reflexive Strike says overwhelm 3, but it also says counter. If your leader card is a Supreme Kai of Time, negate the counter skill and play this card. So he's a 5k overwhelm 3. Activate main, send this card to its owner's warp, draw 2, warp 1. Just a really well designed card. It didn't even need the other activate main, but it does have another activate main, limit 1. You can discard this card and search the top 5 cards of your deck. So it's really cool. We can search the top 7 with Goten. We can search the top 5 with Goku. And that actually fixes our numbers for overwhelm sometimes. But the fact that you can search top 5 and add any black Son Goku Xeno or black Vegeta Xeno is really, really good, because that makes our super combo searchable before we burst it off the top of the deck and cry. And that makes the best overwhelm in our deck searchable, which is Son Goku Beyond All Limits. The reason he's the best is because we do want to overwhelm twice every turn, and he allows us to do that for 1 card out of our hand, because the second overwhelm will just fetch from the warp. So you just establish a 30k swing, and then your second overwhelm's whatever. Speaking of second overwhelm, let's look at some of our overwhelm options. So one of the new cards we got, we have Trunks Challenging the Dark Empire. So this is an overwhelm 6, dual attack 19k, that says auto, if your leader card's a black Supreme Kai of Time, when this card attacks, use up to one card with 5k combo power from your warp in a combo with its skills negated for the turn. So he's a 24k dual attacker that charges up your Z energy without you losing cards from hand. He is the most important overwhelm in the deck because we need to use him to get to our pan. You don't want to have to organically generate Z energy in this deck. Your hand size does not allow for that. So being able to charge 2 Z energy off of Trunks and go into the pan off of that is really good. If your opponent deals with your Trunks in some way, shape, or form, rests it in yellow or something, it does hurt. It does hurt a lot. You do want to get both swings off with this guy whenever possible. So I said I would mention why it's important that Trunks Time Regulator is a Trunks Xeno card. The reason for that is Son Goten Challenging the Dark Empire. So this is an overwhelm 6 double striker. If your leader is a black Supreme Kai time, it's an overwhelm 6. They did that so you can't just splash it into other decks, which is great. Permanent, if this card would be removed from battle area, remove it from the game instead. Auto, when this card's played from your hand, draw a card. That's great, because if you do end up overwhelming it or playing it from your hand by its other activate main, it replaces itself. But you can also play it from your warp through this next skill, which says activate main, limit 1, pay 1 black energy. If your leader is a black Supreme Kai of Time, you have 2 or more energy, and you have a Trunks Xeno in play. Play this card from your hand or your warp. So that is really cool, because that could trigger our Demigra, which we're going to overwhelm anyways, so it's not the biggest deal. But it's a 1 cost double strike 25k or black. Sound familiar? Thwarting anybody? And we can overwhelm out one of our free trunks. We have 7 targets, and then go right into this guy. Alternatively, we could just overwhelm him out. But the advantage to playing him off his activate main is we get 2 overwhelms that turn, plus this guy. We do run a couple more overwhelms, putting our total at, what are we at? 4, 8, 12, 15. I'm hesitant to count the Gokus, the reflexive strikes, as overwhelms, so we won't count those. So we're at 15, we're at 19 here, and this puts us at 23 total overwhelms for the deck. We have 2, and they're off camera. We got 2 Bardock the Tenacious, and we got 2 Brainwash No More. I want to find room for a third of each of these, honestly. We'll see what happens if I feel comfortable going to 54 cards, because we're at 52 in the deck, just because I want the deck to be as consistent as possible so we see the Unison as soon as we can. But yeah, Bardock the Tenacious is a floodgate, effectively. It's an Overwhelm 6 for 1 black energy. When this card's played using Overwhelm, your opponent can only attack with battle cards once during their next turn. Also, when this card's played, you can't play copies of it the next turn. So every other turn, if you can play one of these, you can stagger your opponent's ability to be aggressive. Brainwash No More is an Overwhelm 6. When this card's played using Overwhelm, place up to 3 black battle cards from your warp in your drop. That alone's really great for the deck, and that's why I like him. Plus, he's just a big old 30k coming at you. But the Activate Battle is why he's really special. Activate Battle, you can pay 1 black energy. If your leader card's black and you discard this card from your hand, place 1 card from your life in your drop area, and your leader card doesn't take damage from the battle. So if somebody's swinging at you for like 100k triple strike, you can be like, cool, I'm going to pay an energy, crit a life, and I don't take that damage. And now they just dump their whole hand, and you're like, haha, GG. Alright, so now we're gonna go into what I'll call the tech cards of the deck. First up, and again, I wish I could run more copies of this card. Space is just insanely tight in this deck. Because these are all, like, these ratios I think are solidified. I don't think I would change these ratios ever. They're just, the cards are too important to the deck. These are the ones I want to bump up, but everything else in the deck is so good that it's hard to do that. Anyways, Mass Saiyan Belligerent Warrior. Deflect. If your leader card's black and you've sent a card from your drop to your warp this turn, so if you've overwhelmed effectively, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 6. So it's a 1 cost. Auto limit 1 when this card's played. Choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards, send them to their owner's warps, and this card gains critical for the turn. At the end of your opponent's turn, negate the skills of all cards sent to the warps by this skill for the turn and play them in their owner's battle area. So, on top of the boo, on top of the pan, we have another way to deal with problematic cards. Whether it's a token negate blocker, whether it's a secret rare beast Gohan, whether it's a big ol', I don't know. But we have a lot of removal that does not care about cost. And that's great. I can't tell you how much I like that. So yeah, a 20k crit that has removal built in for 1 energy. You can see why I want to play more of it. Next up, we got our other buddy. Look at that. We got 3 different they're not different. These 2 are the same Mass Saiyan. But we got 3 Mass Saiyans right here. Black Mass Saiyan, Assassin from the Darkness. Deflect. Permanent in this card can only attack when you have 3 or more energy and your leader is a Z leader or you have a Z battle card in play. Auto. When this card's played, choose 1. If it's your turn, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards. Energy cost is 6 or less and warp it. We're almost never doing that. It's nice to have the option though. If it's your opponent's turn, choose up to 1 of your cards and it gets 5,000 power for the turn. So we can bean our leader. It's so good against aggro. It just makes you big. Activate battle, limit one black energy. If your leader card's black, play this card from your hand. No requirements. You can play this turn 1 and just let it sit there. You wouldn't want to because you want to get value out of the auto, but the option's there. We have room here to. Well, I guess I could scooch some stuff over. Let's get this stuff out of the way, and we'll go into the defensive and tech option. That was more or less the core of the deck, though. This left side, these 8 cards are the ones that I think you could tinker around and you don't really need in the deck. The other cards I showed you, you need for this deck. All right. Get these guys out of the way. We'll leave our other tech cards here. Okay, first up, let's talk about Support of the Dark Empire. I've been talking about token negates a whole bunch. That's because they're really good. They're really relevant. We run 3 because we need to stay alive. Running this card in the deck before wasn't that great because we didn't want to take additional damage plus the crit we're dealing ourselves every turn. But now it's fine. Plus the blocker has combo power, which does come up. Next up, we're running 2 Supreme Kai Time Labyrinth Unleashed. This is a 2 of, but it can be fetched off of Beyond All Limits Son Goku. So we effectively can have 3 to 4 copies of access to 3 to 4 copies of it. It's a counterattack, negate the attack, play this card. If you or your opponent has 3 or more cards in their warp, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2. If your leader card is black, when this card's played using counterattack skill, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and warp it. At the end of the turn, play any card sent to the warp with their skills negated for the turn. So you can stop 2 attacks for 1 energy with Kai. You can stop 2 attacks for 0 energy with Support of the Dark Empire. And then Bardock and Mass Saiyan are both really cool options to either proactively or retroactively deal with threats. The last 4 cards of the deck that I'm going to show you are all 1-ofs. So these will be our secret rares of the deck. So first up, Son Gohan Hostile Saiyan Encounter. This is the SGR for black. And I'll explain it because not a lot of people are playing this, and I'm wondering why. I had this at 2. I think I had this at 3 when I started building the deck. I cut it to 2 when I made my first build, and now it's at 1. But don't let that discourage you, because like the card snapped. It's just the deck is tight on space. Permanent. When this card would be removed from a battle area, removed from the game instead. They do that so you can't reuse it, because that would be busted. Auto. Limit 1. If your leader is black or a Master Teachings card, your life is at 4 or less, and you add 1 card from your life to your hand and place 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck. When your opponent attacks with a battle card, you may play this card from your drop or warp in rest mode and negate the attack. So, something really cool about this. This is not a counter. This is an auto that negates the attack. Some cards say can't be countered. Some cards say some cards like Reflexive Strike will counter counters. This is an auto that negates an attack. So that's really rare in this game and something you should take advantage of in matchups like yellow. It also has the added bonus of when you Z-charge it, you can pay a black energy to warp a 4 or less. I don't think I've ever used that in this deck, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. But having access to a negate for free that you can play from your warp that negates at auto timing, not counter timing, so you can dodge counters, is really, really good. And depending on the prevalence of blue and yellow in the format, this card may be a 2 of, a 3 of, even a 4 of to dodge that stuff. Actually, I don't know if I would ever run 4. 2 to 3 in a counter heavy meta seems right. You know what's crazy? Black also has counter. So like, and red. People are playing red, yellow, pan with counter. So like, every color except green. And green does have a secret rare. They're counters. every color could potentially try to counter you, and this dodges that. So if they're going in with an attack they need to land to win the game, you should answer with this card. All right, tangent over. Next card. Let's talk about Champa. Champa's great, but Champa's even better in this deck because we have 30k base bodies. So like this is just like instantly it becomes a 40k double. But also because we have crit attackers. So if we can land a Champa on one of those crit attackers early, we do it. It generates so much advantage. It puts them on the back foot. It's great. Love me some Champa. Next up, we play one SS3 Gogeta thwarting the Dark Empire. We do play 4 targets for the Union Fusion. 8 targets. We're playing 4 Reflexive Strike and 4 Super Combo. So, pretty easy to get them online. Worst case, we can just overwhelm them out. If you don't know thwarting, I don't know why you're watching this video. Next up, and our final card of the deck, Evil Saiyan Malice Made Flesh. So, there is an argument to be made for other secret rares in this deck. Robelu's fantastic, first of all. The secret rare that came out for this deck. Robelu's fantastic. Brainwashed Kai is really, really, really strong too. Space-Time Unravel, or what is it? I think it's Space-Time Unraveler. That one's really good too. The other Kai. Pan, I could see an argument for Pan. The reason I'm not running any of those is I don't want to spend 2 energy playing Power Overseeing Time Trunks. Because it is inevitable, you will mill your secret rare. So, understanding that, why not just play a secret rare we can play from our warp? And that's why I love Malice Made Flesh. I mean, also it's just a huge swing card. It burns a life. It gives you 2 swings, and some counter play potential. When they play like a 7 or less. Let me explain it for those that are unfamiliar with the card, really. Because I'm talking like you know exactly what it does, and you might not. So ultimate auto. If your opponent's life is at 2 or more, when this card's played, look through your opponent's life and send up to 1 card with an energy cost of 7 or less from it to your opponent's warp. Your opponent shuffles their life, then play up to 1 battle card with an energy cost of 7 or less from your opponent's warp in your battle area with its skills negated for the game. Auto once per turn. When your opponent plays a battle card with an energy cost of 7 or less, you may send one of your battle cards to its owner's warp. If you do, gain control of the played card. So that's really cool considering like we can give away or we can warp away something that wouldn't be attacking in the first place, like a Kai, like a token that didn't get to block or something, in order to gain control of a threat that our opponent's trying to play. And the way we play this guy is for 2 black energy. If your opponent has 3 or more energy, play this card from your hand or warp, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and send it to its owner's warp. So that is our barrier removal for the deck, technically, if there is a barrier issue. But we got tons of removal on legs in this deck. We got crazy, just like going tall potential. I love this leader, man. I really hope this deck becomes competitive, viable competitively. And I look forward to seeing what y'all cook up and any kind of interpretations or techs or even completely different builds that y'all come up with for this leader. I'm looking forward to all of it. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, leave a like, comment, whatever. It really does help out with visibility and stuff. I do stream on Twitch Tuesdays. I'm trying to do Dragon Ball content. Fridays I do DJ content. So yeah, live DJ sets every Friday and Dragon Ball Super content every Tuesday. Look forward to that. Thank y'all for hanging out. My name is Nasif. See y'all next time.